So we've got Martin back. It's amazing for a second time. I can't believe he came for a second one. I mean, so impressive.
To be con twice. Shame on me.
I mean, this
double trouble.
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely to have you back. As how fabulous Martin is just, you can see it on the other video. I mean, just hours, years worth of expertise here in one room. So thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries, yeah.
And it's so nice to be all in the same room together doing this.
Oh gosh, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
It really has.
Happy days. Well, Katie's back in the orchestra at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So actually the three of us are doing a concert tonight as well.
Yep, super busy.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go. Martin's got some beautiful solos
Mm-hmm.
in this concert.
Tricky. Firebird, something by Irene Buckley, Awakening, and Lalo Symphony Espagnol, with the amazing violinist Eleanor de Mello.
She's super.
17 or 18 years old. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, such character and everything. So
Totally.
we've been enjoying it all week. So
Indeed.
Popper 36.
Easy.
I love it. I love it.
Why did you choose this one, Martin?
Well, the main reason is because last time we did, as you remember, number 30,
Yeah.
which is a horrific G-flat major nightmare of semitones top to bottom.
Not that you made it sound like that at all.
For the whole 2 pages. It was quite tricky. I actually, I don't know if I mentioned last time, I tried to play the G-flat major one, starting on open G, just in G major all the way through to see if I could, and it's almost possible. So
That's hilarious.
the other temptation was to tune everything down the same song and just play easy, yeah. So there's all sorts of cheats and tricks. No, the reason I thought this was kind of the last one was kind of not high stress but high concentration, you know. And this one is just a bit of fun. It's like an extra movement from the C major suite that maybe.
Saying that, it's so Bach-like, isn't it?
Bach wishes he'd written this, you know, as courant, you know, second half or something. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. A few diminished sevenths in there to keep you on your toes, but generally it's just pleasant.
Isn't
You
it?
know?
And it's, I have to say, as someone who has done all, I mean, how many do we left? 3 left, would you believe? But it's really pleasant to actually have one where you can just play some music and enjoy it without too much stress, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Now this has its corners, of course, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think you're comfy.
Interesting though, this morning I teach a girl in Shanghai every Friday morning, and so I thought, well, as part of research, you know, I like to do my bit of research there. So I emailed her the part this morning, so we had a lesson on this.
Oh wow.
So she sight read it and we worked on it just to see if she found the same corners tricky that I did, or maybe you guys did when you first read through it.
Sure.
And so I put a few circles around, if I can find it quick. Interestingly enough, when we played the first page through, you know, we've got this A section, A again, and then B, and then A again.
My favourite kind of popper study. It repeats.
Yeah, exactly. But Sophia said, why didn't he just put a repeat sign in the saved paper?
Well,
There you go.
That's a pretty valid,
there are
valid
some
point.
dynamic differences, but he could have just done a little.
Yes, second
There
time.
are.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes Popper actually went out for a meal with his friends and kind of said, that'll do, I honestly do think.
He wrote some of those short pieces on like napkins at the bar. I've heard that before.
Well, there we go. There's
So-
research for you.
Okay.
Some of the ones with less notes, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you know what I thought was interesting about this, right? Is there's so many options about like solutions you do with the bow distribution in this, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm really curious about how you guys thought about that, or what you thought in general, if you tried different things. Like I experimented a lot with starting these separate notes more in the upper half, and then I also experimented with using like less bow on the slurred notes to sort of get the bow distribution down. But I think it's really one of those studies where you have to vary it depending on what's happening.
And actually, the lighter you go, the easier the piece seems to get. You know,
Yeah.
so even at the beginning to pull that first C natural, so you're really at the tip of the bow, but not it doesn't need to be massive sound.
Right,
And
yeah,
then just using the bow nice and slowly. Like you, I faffed about and tried 600 different ways. I even tried doing all up bow.
Oh, nice.
Just for a bit of a variation to see what.
That's very fancy.
And I thought I was going to be a real smart aleck. And when it gets to the section A for the second time, so bar 46, I thought, why not? Let's double the value of this study and play reverse bowing on the second section.
I like it.
And I kept it up for 2 or 3 days. But after that, I thought, life is getting just too short for this sort of.
I bet
business.
all your left hand then is super even because you've actually done that practice. Yeah. We're always talking about doing that in popper, that it's a good challenge always to see can you have the same effect the other way around.
Yeah.
Not that you would ever choose it musically in a concert, but no harm, right?
Yeah.
Can I just get my international? Because I keep on forgetting that sometimes it's nice to just see if it's totally
different
different.
versions. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were a few things too, like sorry to be nerdific, but we are doing a proper.
Is that really a word? Is that a proper word? Nerderific.
We've made it up.
Nice.
We checked this in the international the second time because we start the second one fortissimo, right?
Yeah.
Then there's a crescendo marked in what is bar 56,
and
the crescendo goes to forte.
Yeah.
So presumably there's a drop right before that crescendo.
Well.
Or do you think it's like subito less?
It doesn't make any sense to go. So.
Yeah.
I mean that's.
So it must be less before that. But I was just wondering if the international edition had something different.
It does not. But funny you should mention it. I at the end, when we are, where did I actually put it in? At one of these drops where you're going up to fortissimo, I actually put in a drop myself.
Mm-hmm.
So at the where we end up doing, you're supposed to be at that whatever that one is. You're supposed to be fortissimo already, and you just can't. That restatement of that fortissimo.
It's too dull, isn't it, to play the same?
You can't smash it out. It's not. It's not musically satisfying. So I basically just at the start of this drop down to a piano so that you can do.
Where did you decide to drop down to piano? On the first one.
So actually, the one that starts with the tenor clef and the baronwriter.
Thank you.
And then, so you can use those as 2 mini phrases. I'm on the wrong bow.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, let's practice for later.
Yeah. So I came to the same conclusion. So I put the subito PP on the third or the second iteration of it, which comes 3 times.
Oh, nice.
That's really nice.
That sounds much nicer because it's like an echo effect.
The thing that made me smile the first time I played through this. Do you remember what we were working on that week in the orchestra?
Oh my god, You're basically like a classical music, what do they call that thing?
That's Shostakovich 5 for anyone who's wondering. Who doesn't know that.
The best bit. But it segues beautifully into here.
You just done
All of this just fits nicely. And then
that's a classical music like mashup, right? You've just done Popper, Shasti, awesome.
You could go
You
straight
could
to
do that with a band thing, I'm just saying. 3 cellos.
Whoa.
Happy days.
Yeah, totally.
Your next Arts Council funding application.
Wow, it's all happening. I love
it. Oh my gosh, that is so
How did you cope with the this needs to come out more, doesn't it? But the G just works so nicely on every cello. It's really difficult to balance that.
Yeah.
I
definitely did, 75%. So that thing. So just tilting a little more on the first finger so that it is 75% over there if you can. But often because when you get there, it seems like you might not hit the G. Then you have to be quite careful. Yeah. Because obviously we want.
I kind of cheated. I'm a big fat cheat from all of the solutions we talked about last time. But a further cheat, I was putting in kind of quasi quaver rest at the end.
Nice.
And the G is still ringing.
Just the bit before it. In order to get that to speak, that's a really Bach prelude problem, right? So you don't want to smash it too much because it actually interferes with the sound, but you also need the balance there. Otherwise, that G really overpowers there.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
Yeah, I'm afraid I went too hard.
Yeah,
all the time.
I did the same.
by the third time playing it through or whatever, I did find like it is one of those things that's a lot more tiring than you realize, you know?
Yeah.
And that's always the place where the lactic acid is like built up, you don't have any rests before that.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you guys, did either of you try to experiment like with a little bit of bow angle for that? Because I did today, but I decided not to do it.
Yeah.
Where just a slightly closer to the bridge on the D string.
Like this.
Yeah. Yeah, so now you're just slightly closer to the D string. Sorry, to the bridge on the D string.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The only problem is the sound suffers when your angle's not straight. So I've tried a little bit of that.
Yeah,
where
you have to do it just
like
very mildly.
a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But if you get too enthusiastic about that and suddenly then you're moving on, it's quite dangerous.
Well, I also thought this area was one of those places where you have to really think about the bow distribution. I don't know for you guys, but I usually ended up in bar 81, is it? At the beginning of that, sort of quite in the upper half.
Yeah.
And then there's also the challenge of how you try to speak with such little bow, but
Of course. Yeah.
there's always compromises you have to make in this study, I find.
And if you get stuck in that top half, it just leads to tension in your
Yeah.
arms and shoulders. It's a really difficult corner then.
Yeah.
I think often if you can just push a tiny bit for the whole study, even though of course it's slightly more difficult, it does mean that you don't waste as much bow. So in general, it's going to be less of an effort.
But there's something to be said. I agree entirely with you. But there's something to be said for this piece to play and feel like this.
Yeah,
Because the scales are so long, just to feel kind of open chest, and
definitely.
it feels more rewarding this way, I
Sure,
think, than calculating, which is actually really what you need to do. But
It's a bit of both.
in the same corner that we were talking about, I didn't think so much about the bowing, but I found myself really obsessed with not pressing my left thumb too hard. Because as soon as that starts going on, my forefinger was getting slower and slower and slower, just like. And by the time we get to the end of the third page, like you said, the lactic acid is all there. It's just like it's like you're holding your breath till we get to the last line.
Muscling through it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think I played it the whole way through before now? This is the thing I do. Is never play it
Alba's
until
all
the day.
that time
I see.
efficiency.
Yeah.
She likes to.
Time is money, right? So,
Yeah.
no, 100%. Don't waste your time playing it through it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I suffer when it comes to it, and really I've never practiced
Yeah.
the actual strength that you need. It's
Oh my
fascinating.
gosh, so funny.
What about the very opening? I'm fascinated by this idea, even in the Bach suites as well, that if you have an open string, it's going to smash out. You have to somehow find a way to lighten there, or also have a legato. You know what I mean? That's often what I've heard people doing this before. So there has to be. I have to think about it slightly earlier.
Yeah, you're almost sort of.
Swooping if you want to have these elongated phrases, and similarly this. So instead of breaking it into tiny little bars, but so that there is always this overarching feel of a longer line if we can.
Yeah. Wow, you guys have really thought about this. I just played.
That's not true. I can see your part.
Don't be
You've
fooled.
got
I think just to have a lovely crescendo going all the way to the G.
Yeah.
As like you were a singer.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's very gestural.
And let
actually.
everything take care of itself in a way. It's nice.
That's because you're just naturally talented with
Oh,
cello. Some
please.
people have to actually work this stuff
Please.
out.
But the other thing too, it's a great opportunity to try different things
Yeah.
because it's so repetitive.
Yeah.
And like the thing with this one, it's a little bit of a blank canvas in that there's I think a lot of ways you could interpret this successfully and musically and.
Very much so. I do think if you're starting it, this could be one of these studies that could be useful earlier on for younger students because it's not so taxing in the left hand really, but a lot of that kind of practice where you would do that timing of the bow, so you have to really think how many notes that you have, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And being able to, I would, if I was starting this off, do a lot of, if I had ultimate time, which I don't, but, I would definitely practice the whole thing on open strings, because it just takes away a little bit of the lack of knowledge, I suppose, and then your bow can direct it a bit more.
Yeah.
And it helps, for, like you say, for the younger students, because the bars are so short. I often find with the guys in my class, if you've got something in 12/8 and it's nearly a whole line long sometimes, and the accidentals aren't visible at the end of the bar, but maybe they're earlier on. And that can really catch them out pretty regularly. We don't suffer with that in this. We could just play, everything is kind of local. Now, can I ask you about bar 17, for example? It said in both IMC and the Baronreiter about this third finger on the F sharp. Now, of course, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you play all four 4-1, the same as an exam?
So I presume because it's so fast that they don't want you to actually leave the hand position. But I find this a lot in both editions. Some of their fingerings they would choose. I actually changed one of them to a 4 because I was like, that's madness. But I think whoever has made these editions has larger hands than a lot of people actually.
Yeah.
So for them, this idea of doing 1-3 somewhere would just be ridiculous for me. Not that I have small hands or anything like that, but it just. I think people have to watch out for that. It's someone else's fingering, not necessarily yours.
Where was the other one? I wondered if I only noticed it this morning. I wondered if I'd misread it and it should have been on the D string. Let's see if I can find where it is.
There's another one. Is it just after when it goes to the D flat? They did one there.
That so
I've changed that to a 4.
94, yeah. So could it have been on the D string? That's what occurred to me today.
Yeah.
But why would you?
Would you? I'd still use 4 on the
The
D
sound
string
quality is
too.
so nice on the A string.
Yeah.
So
That must be just a matter of someone's
I
fingering,
did.
like-
It's so funny because I did 4 without even.
yeah.
Even though it's written.
Yeah.
It didn't even.
And then after a while, it sort of grates on you. Each time those diminished sevenths come back and it says a 3 on it. It's like, well, okay, make your point at the start and then leave me alone. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny.
Yeah.
I even found that at the opening. What did you do for the actually this that area? So they had that weird finger.
Yeah. It was a weird swapping thing. Yeah.
Great like thing to learn, but
Do you know what I think it's good for? Which is not really demonstrated here, but I think that's such a good thing if you want to have a really legato string crossing.
Yeah.
It's a great sort of thing to get used to doing. But even if like you're playing something lyrical that quickly,
Yeah.
I wouldn't choose
No.
probably.
no.
Anyway,
It's-
that was the only reason I thought like maybe they had that in there. But
Did you just go for 1-1 extension
Yeah.
2 in the end?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna. I'm doing the fingering, but I don't.
Love it.
Wow.
Yes.
We'll see how accurate it
Scholarly.
is. Woo.
I changed it all. I actually went across this string just because I wanted to actually, conserve. Lazy cellist. So it's just like, why would I give myself extra? I'm just not going to move. I'm going to move when I've twice the amount of time.
I'm too much of a goody two shoes sometimes. I just do what's written.
Yes.
And Al was slowly breaking me of that habit.
I'm
I'm too reverent.
I am not good enough though because I never do what I'm told. So
Speaking of doing what you're told, guys. Top of the third page, right?
No, it's good.
We should talk about this part because it has
Yeah.
lots of tricky bits. But so I noticed, being the good reverent person that I am, that this whole section is piano, right? Until 1:30, and I was like, well, musically, I mean, it kind of makes sense to grow through this. But then I thought, well, it's one of those things. Like, if you really play a piano, that whole section, you're giving yourself this whole additional challenge. Like, can you really keep it soft and beautifully controlled?
Under pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it helps you use the bow more sensibly. If you start smashing into it, then suddenly you start running out of centimetres of hair.
Sure.
Whereas you just keep it nicely under control of the tip. You don't have to hit the bottom note before the leap too much. Just a gentle stroke, and then sing a bit on the first note at the top of the next phrase. Maybe that gets an extra 2% of hair. Before you continue. But I think it's nice. I have to say, I do feel by the time we get to the E, I'm already singing quite strong, way before the B flat.
Sure. Yeah.
Now this is sort of remedial, level student question from me. In bar 32.
32.
132.
Sorry, 132. Yeah.
Sure.
This horrible thing.
Yeah.
Did anybody else find that first finger really manky?
Yes, and I had to have my first finger on a little bit earlier because I found it was often just not.
The coordination was tricky, yeah.
So I had to make sure that as I was practicing it, you'd be somewhere. Actually, that whole corner. It's kind of weird. Did you? No, you didn't.
I totally did, yeah. I'm not convinced because in this I change every day at least twice. No, I'm going to do a fourth finger. No, I'm going to do the thumb. No, I'm going to do... And so it's the ultimate sin, not deciding, and then it doesn't go great either way.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think sometimes people feel they have to stick to a fingering, and like it's really good to try out different ones when you're learning it, and like
100%.
change your mind.
And it's good to
Even
try.
if you end up doing the thing you initially.
Well, exactly, and that's why it's brilliant to actually have a look at a few different editions, because you can try someone else's fingerings for a while, and then you can decide, no, I don't like it. So here, I actually did that one because I found it slightly unusual. I just thought it was kind of weird. That could I organise myself?
The first finger's going to be hanging off by the time I get there. Let's get to the third finger, and then, at least then you can sing in a relaxed manner and continue. But we'll see.
Yeah,
that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a bit late for my
I find that this is maybe a stupid statement, but I used to find the same when I was learning the Schumann concerto when I was a kid, that all my fingering was based around the first finger all the time. And I used to get, by the time you get to the second movement, it'd just be absolute carnage on the back of the hand. And so I'm a bit wary about, ended up just sitting on the first finger unnecessarily. Certainly a long way through the piece.
Well, especially for stamina, for a long piece like that, you do actually need to use the other fingers. I find that my finger will end up getting way too calloused if I do that. And then you're really in trouble in winter.
That is amazing. I've never thought about that, guys, but that's like mind-blowing. I mean, really.
Well, that's because Martin's here. He's our special
I
guest
know.
today, and he just, pulls out the big guns.
Which one is it? There's something similar in the Ailbhe concerto. I can't remember which finger gets tired. But years later, I came back to this Schumann. I changed all the fingering so that I used the first finger as little as possible, which sounds ludicrous, but I was just trying to fight my own anatomy in that sense to find a more relaxed way to play. I don't force my students to play one way or the other. I let them try and decide. But I do advise them that this.
Good to be aware.
There was one concerto I did with the orchestra. I'm sure you were in the orchestra back then. It was Delia's double concerto. I played with Alan on tour around the country. It's a beautiful piece. If you ever get a chance to listen to it, I think the benchmark recording is Raphael and Tasman Little. It's an unbelievable piece.
Cool.
And it's so high. He wrote an official viola reduction so that it could be violin and viola. So all the time, there's no safety there. Everything is just in the middle of noise. It's really dangerous. I found myself pressing too hard. I came off stage after the first concert. We got like 4 or 5 concerts. And the back of my hand was like that.
Oh, wow.
Just had been pressing way too hard. So it's something I think about quite a lot. In a longer lasting piece to try and share the workload. Knowing my own inadequacies on those kind of things to make sure that you can get to rest something. So that B flat we're talking about, maybe it's a bit hokey to slide back just for that accent, but it's a sort of self-preservation measure, if you like.
Totally, and I think there's so much to be said too for, we'll see when we play through this how tired we all are, but you shouldn't be muscling your way through stuff, I know we all could if we had to, but it's
the idea to try and see can you be there with the sound and be relaxed
and balanced.
Often if we just even relax ourselves in our mind when we're doing it, then there's not so much you find yourself pressing where you don't need to.
And even if you can get through the performance of something doing that, it's sort of like for life.
Yeah, exactly.
I should apply that. I should apply that to the rest of my life, not just playing.
It's not to be underestimated. Just to stay relaxed. It's a massive battle day in day out, just to stay cool.
Yeah.
So.
Not just to crush everything into each other because you feel the pressure.
Get it out. Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm sure you guys are the same. Whenever you finish a concerto, you come off the stage and you're like, let's play again.
Of course.
You very rarely come across and like, I'm going back to my hotel now. That's it.
I know.
How you actually approach the shift, what you thought about.
Just pressing both directions of course. This kind of feel. What was the other thing? I found myself at the beginning of practicing this piece really hitting at the top, and actually the more I didn't do that and just relaxed, the easier the notes came actually.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, we were talking about having a a safety rail, if you like, with the thumb on the harmonic all the time. That's why he gives us 2 on the C sharp and 3 on the D, isn't it?
Yeah,
Instead of giving the same
So-
fingering each time,
Sure.
which would have been another solution.
Yeah.
The only really super dangerous one is the E, of course, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you give yourself time, you're nice and relaxed, and you're singing rather than worrying, it's not too.
Yeah,
It's not
actually.
too great.
It is. It's not too bad. I definitely would have done a good bit of the stop and go practice again.
Yeah.
You know. For me, definitely the first note I noticed if I actually did a kind of release, that kind of ascent. If I actually focused on, it gave me more time to actually
sort
move
of-
up and be earlier ready.
Yeah.
Sort
Ready,
of
ready.
launching. Yeah, I thought a lot about that, the relationship with the bow and the shift.
Did you try to play it in time? But bigger to go up. Did you give yourself any room?
So I probably tried to. I mean, we'll see later, but I did try and think about it no longer. Bum ya da 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 bum ya da 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 da. So it was crossing over the bar lines.
Yeah.
So then it probably has a
Okay.
touch of time.
I
but-
think yeah, in reality probably you do this with a bit of time. I did practice it with the metronome, trying to do it really straight. But I think it ends up, maybe I just needed to practice some more. Need more than a week on it. But I think that you want to have it sound like it's in time, but it's actually a little bit out of time. So sort of how I felt about it, you know. You want to have a sense of like total ease and that you're not kind of creating false space to do it.
Sure, yeah.
But actually, just to really quickly say about the fingering, I thought the hardest 2 of those actually were the ones where you have to cross strings, like this one, that one, and then I mean the open A to the C sharp
It's a bit
can
dangerous,
be
yeah.
can be more tricky.
Yeah.
Just because there's such a difference in what's happening in the hand,
Yeah.
you know.
Sure.
Whereas when you're shifting, you kind of have that.
Yeah.
I kind of
But
try
yeah.
to approach it a bit more operatic vibe, always trying to come back to singing rather than playing in a moment like this. And I don't know if I achieved it, but my aim was certainly not to play them all the same, because harmonically they're not all equal,
Yeah.
Totally.
equally important. But maybe to take a little time on the first one, then the second one you don't want to ram the message home, so you play that one a bit straight, and then the next one just very as we go. So by the time you get to the E, it's a real release. You've got to event horizon.
Yeah.
And you can really sing at the top there. Yeah.
Sure. A few other things that were interesting for me were, you know, if you towards 110, you finish here. That you do have to actually think about the same pitch and retain it through the rests.
Sure.
Just because there is a rest doesn't necessarily. So that kind of idea of harmonic tuning, always keeping the ear out for that, I found really fascinating.
This is an easy solution for that. I just take way more than 1 bar rest.
I love it. And I also like throwing in a bit of cheeky characters anytime you have any of those. Should play the right notes. You know, so that you don't always think necessarily.
Look what it is!
Ailbhe's
It's
brand
your
new case is here.
case! Oh my gosh! Sorry. How
So exciting.
how perfect is that that's happened during Cello Power?
You've got to break
That
open the
is
box
too-
on the show.
Not a copyright, YouTube.
Did you get the yellow one like you said you wanted?
I want to, but they don't have a yellow.
Oh.
Sad times. It's alright, there's still time for another yellow case. We're good. Sorry about that. That was a terrible interruption.
No, it was the perfect interruption for this. I think I'm gonna delete a little bit of that in. Like, how this new case just came.
I can't believe you saw me at the window first.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Good thing I was.
Oh, love it.
So this is 2 general questions for you. Having been on this massive journey, this pop-up extravaganza, do you feel like you're better cellist, or you just you like to turn away and think about something else for the next year? And the second question is, someone made a comment recently that they thought you shouldn't have too much fun in the pop studies. And I wondered how you feel about that. I know how I feel about that, and you probably read into what my answer is, but how do you guys feel about that?
Well, I go first.
Sure.
So number 1, I absolutely loved it, and I think I'm gonna keep doing the popper thing on my own. I think we both will. You know, just relearning a study a week, because it's like. It helps. I mean, I feel like a better cellist for it, absolutely, and then I feel such a sense of security, because it's one thing to practice. I do a lot of technique practice, but it's one thing to, you know, work on these they're extraordinary pieces with just incredible harmonic progressions and so much musicality. So I think I absolutely have gotten so much out of it. And I mean, anyone who believes like you shouldn't have fun in everything you do, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like,
they're not welcome to our party.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this project, I think, is to make Popper accessible to people and make it feel like even though these are hard and they might seem scary, we can all tackle them, we can all approach them and try our best to learn them.
I've got to say my immediate reaction was, well, if you make them fun, your students are more likely to practice them.
Exactly.
If you make it miserable, they're not going to practice them or want to practice them at all.
Well, I've been amazed too at how many people have wanted to participate in this project because of the fun we're having. I hope.
So they want to elbow in on the action.
No, but you know, you'll be practicing it like cheekily at work, which wouldn't do with, you know, concertos or something like
During
that.
the violin cadenza.
Yeah. But a lot of times people are like, oh, what are you doing? And then they want to partake. And
Absolutely.
what do you think, Ella?
Yeah, I think hands down I'm stronger, fitter, faster, and I wouldn't have actually thought beforehand that it's really interesting to see, but it just shows up a few things that you can actually devote time towards and then use as an extra tool, which I found fascinating. You know, like the fourth finger I wouldn't have used a lot.
Yes.
Whereas now it's an extra, it cuts out a few shifts for me.
Are there any extra features like that, the fourth finger, that you now have in your toolbox that you could use on a daily basis?
100%. I find myself now, first, of course, learning things faster because of this insane project we had. It meant, you know, if I have something else on, even the way I approach something, if I have to learn it really fast, now I have a couple of extra things I'll just write in the score that mean I don't have to spend as much time repeating things. Yeah. Because now I know. And it's similar in the orchestral rep if we're playing, or I was just doing a Beethoven sonata the other day, having recorded them before. And so I was 100% at the top of my game at that. But then suddenly I played it the other day and I was like, this is so funny because I don't have to practice certain things as much because I just know where the notes are. Yeah. That's, I mean, the comfort that gives me in general. You know, even the Shostakovich. You know, when I did that, I remember thinking everyone in the orchestra kind of goes, ah! You know, and you can feel some people who come back and some people who go for it. And you know, in my head, I just said 100% yes, you know where it is. And went for it and felt great and hit it. Now, it's funny because I only did that in the concert. For all the rehearsals, I did hilarious things because my brain just didn't go, you know where this is, go. Yeah. But that's so fascinating for me. It's all, once you have the tools, they're there to be used.
It's so also the thing of like the idea of playing a Popper from somebody else 1 year ago. Yeah. We both said this, you know? Like, I think our nervousness levels around, like, I'm much better at coping with, like, the
general
inner anxiety you would feel to play this to another cellist. Whereas now it feels less...
almost comfortable.
Well, also that, like, you know, my entire identity as a human being is not tied up in...
how well I play this Popper
Etude. It's, even though... Because you sort of have this sense of, well, you've done a lot of them, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and with regard to the whole, are you having fun doing this? That to me is the most ludicrous thing to hear, that someone would choose to have no fun while practicing. Like, you should never be. We all started music because we love it and because it is fun, because it transports you places. Why wouldn't you incorporate that into your practice?
Besides, if you don't want to have fun, you play dot hour instead of Popper, don't you?
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think this is something, you know, it's a longer discussion than for today, but you know, I think there's a lot of stuff in our little world, our classical music world, about practice and negative feelings associated with that. Like, you have to feel like it's work and you have to feel like it's sort of this purgatory to success. And I think, why should we have to feel that way, you know? And I think a lot of times you actually are motivated to work harder when there's positive reinforcements. So
I like to practice, you know, not a lot, but I do enjoy practicing, and I like to be super prepared whenever I can in the orchestra. Not because I want to be the best or I've got a responsibility, all those things at the side, but when we're playing, I like to enjoy everybody else's playing. And if you're like this and for the whole symphony, you miss everything else that's going on. And actually, the section suffers if everybody's got their heads in the parts and we're not playing with the flute player who's got a solo over there. So you don't need to worry about this. You know how the notes go. You know this shift. You can now she's looking. Yeah, we're together, and it's so much more enjoyable as a whole.
That.
You know.
Yeah, that's so
And
lovely to hear.
that's only because you've spent an extra hour in the practice room rather than just getting out of the car and starting the rehearsal.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So
No, it's true.
yeah.
I love it. Okay, is it time to play?
I think it's time.
First section A twice, you know?
To tire you out.
I think to tire you out.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's different when you perform it to somebody because you feel it kind of more. Oh my
god, nice.
That was so much fun though.
It was very fun. Thanks for letting us inflict that on you. But
well done, like popping in before concert, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, seriously, go team.
Right.
So we only have to rehearse and do a concert, right?
Yeah. Easy.
That's all.
Right?
Amazing. Thank you
so much
for being amazing as always.